This educational video is brought to you by CaliforniaRealEstateLicenseSchool.com, a mobile-friendly website offering up-to-date test preparation and simulated exams, featuring more than 1,000 practice test questions and answers to prepare you for the California Real Estate exam. Register for a student pass today.
Alright, so this is the first part of our Exam Essential series, exam questions for the California Real Estate exam. It doesn't matter where you're going to take this exam. If you're in Northern California, San Francisco, Oakland, Sacramento, or you're in Southern California or even Fresno area, or as I said, Southern California, which is going to be Los Angeles area or San Diego area. In Los Angeles, I think the exam is taken in La Palma. It really doesn't matter where you're going to take this exam. Really, you will have to deal with these common questions. And also, it doesn't matter if it's going to be a salesperson exam or a broker exam. You're just going to have more questions for the broker exam, and maybe a little bit trickier questions. But for this first part, I'm going to talk about something that you will see. It doesn't matter, no matter the type or the location of the exam, you will see these questions. Now, they're always going to try to trick you, and we will see when I'm going to show you in the other videos. This is just part one, so I will just talk about one common question. But when you will see more videos like this on this channel, and just follow along these part one, part two, part three. Just kind of follow along, and then you will gain those knowledge, and you will be much more aware of those tricks that they use during the actually drafting these questions for the exam. Now, something that I want to talk about today is gonna be eminent domain, escheat, and adverse possession. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys know already this definition if you're already studying for the exam, but understand the difference between these three terms, because they will trick you. They will come up with question at the exam that, let's say, the question is about adverse possession, but all the answers are about escheat and eminent domain, and then you have only one last option and it says none of the above. Well, guess what? If you know your definition, you know that the question is about adverse possession, and everything that is about escheat and eminent domain is irrelevant, so the right answer would be none of the above. That's why you need to know exactly what these are pretty much about, and then also have some kind of mental reminder for yourself as far as what they are. Because really, you don't want to try to learn pages of definition if you don't have a mental image. If in your mind you cannot make a 3D dimension of that thing in your mind, then you're just repeating like text, like a parrot. Okay, you need, when you grasp a concept, when you like right now I'm talking about eminent domain. The mental image that I have about eminent domain is this. I have a couple of construction worker, a utility company. This is the mental image. This is what I'm seeing when I'm in my mind. I'm not telling you, but I'm just kind of sharing my deep thoughts with you. Now, I know exactly what eminent domain is, but when I'm drawing the eminent domain 3D image of it in my mind, this is what I see first. Okay, I see these guys working on some kind of main line, utility companies. It can be a water main line, it can be a gas line, it can be a sewer line. It doesn't matter. This is what I created for myself, and I want you to create for yourself that 3D mental image that pretty much confirms that you understand what that definition means. So eminent domain, what is it? Basically, the government. Now, this website gives you a lot of details about what eminent domain is, and you can see this is a website that is eminentdomainlawcalifornia.com and tells you the process. You don't need to be an expert of eminent domain, and you don't need to know everything that is on this website, okay? But basically understand that if tomorrow the city, the county, the state, or even the federal government wants to do a public project in your area, and they're gonna have to, let's say they want to do like a sewer line, an extension on the main line for the sewer line, or maybe a storm drainage system, or maybe a highway. It doesn't matter. It's gonna involve construction. It's gonna be supposedly it's going to be for the good of the community or for the public benefits, and they're going to have to go through your property, through your private property, your home, your land, whatever the case is. So they're going to have to pretty much, force you to sell that property to them, so you don't own that property anymore, and the government owns that property, so then they can proceed with their public work. That's pretty much eminent domain. So that's why I had this image in my mind. Okay, so think of your home and think of, bam, these guys doing a public project in your backyard or in your front yard, in your property, within your property lines. So they have to somehow pay you, which is going to be a fair, I guess they do a fair market value, so they're going to send an appraiser. You as the owner, you can have your own appraisal done, and then you can go to court and try to pretty much appeal it if you're not happy with the market value that they came up with. If you want more money and things like that, that can go to a court. But eventually, here to talk about the trial, eventually you will lose, and they will be able to proceed with their public project as long as they're showing that they're paying you something. They will be able to go forward because of the fact that this is a part of the law. The law and the way the law is written is going to be on their side. So pretty much they can just show that the project is in the benefit of the public, and is for the greatest public good and the least private injury or inconvenience for one private party. So based on that law, you will lose your property, you will get some money for it, and they take over your property, and you don't own that property anymore. So that's eminent domain. Now let's move on to escheat. What is escheat? Now escheat, in your mind, you can go and read exactly the law, but basically, if someone dies, they don't have any family, they don't have anybody to get their properties, and that can be also personal property, not only real property. Well, guess what? The state of California does a small attempt to find the family of that person that is deceased. If they cannot find the family, the state takes your property. That's it. They take your home, they take your car, they take your saving account, they take everything. So if you don't have a will, and the person can even die in another state. Okay, it doesn't matter. They can die in New York, in Texas. They can die anywhere out of the state of California. If the property in question is in the state of California, and they didn't have any family, any heirs, anybody, any will, anything that was set up there, and in some cases, now we're getting too technical, but if the will is not drafted in California, in a lot of cases the state of California rejects the will. So even if you drafted your will in the state of Texas, and you have a home or a land in California, and you died and you don't have any family or any kids or heirs or someone that is a direct blood relative, or direct family relative in terms of like succession, the state of California is just going to pretty much take the property, and they would become the owner of your property. So that's pretty much escheat means. It's called there are website. You can go here. The San Francisco Gate gives you more Explanation: escheat is a legal process that transfers ownership of an abandoned property to the state. In California, for instance, landlord, banks, and other organizations that have control over other property must return it to their owners after 3 years of inactivity. When they are unable to locate the owners, they must transfer the property to the state government. So the state takes over the property. Now, as I said, that can include real property and any tangible personal property, including saving accounts. And once the real property was transferred, let's say 5 years after it was transferred, someone's, I don't know, kids all of a sudden come out of nowhere and say, hey, that was my dad's house, or that was my mom's house. I was out of the country, I was traveling, I didn't get your letter, I didn't get your notifications. Well, guess what? You really only have 5 years after they took over to come and put in a claim. Once they transfer and the 5 years has passed, there is nothing that can be done. The property is owned by the state of California, and most likely they will sell it and put the money directly back into the state fund. So you are out of luck. So this is escheat. Let's move on to the last one, adverse possession. Now, adverse possession is when someone gets into someone's property. Let's say it's an abandoned property, and they live in that property. Let's say a homeless person start to live in your home. You're out of town or you're out of the country, and they pretty much after a while they can start, like I'm talking after a few years, they can start a legal action and pretty much reverse the title to their own and say, hey, I took care of this property, I took care of the land, I took care of the trees, I took care of everything that was in here, and I want to own this property. This property is not being used. And in some cases, legally, they can pretty much have a successful adverse possession action granted and become the owner of that property. Now, in order to make this law harder, a lot of states, they pretty much put more and more restriction for it. So I know in California, you have to prove that you have paid taxes on that property, even though you don't own the property. So that creates a lot of obstacle for the person that wants to put in a successful adverse possession. You have to show that you paid the property taxes of it, but at the same time, the owner of that property most likely is paying the property taxes. Otherwise, the property is going to become delinquent and is going to be going to the TTC and the tax collectors. They're gonna start to put lien on the properties and eventually own the property. So if the property is there and it's kind of vacant, most likely somebody is paying the property taxes. So for you, in order to gain access to the property, but also gain access to the right to pay the property taxes, that's another extra challenge that makes adverse possession in California really hard. But in some other states, their requirements are different. So, like this article is really interesting. It talks about a homeless guy who got into a $2.5 million Florida mansion, and now he's putting legally an adverse possession with the with the court there, and the police can't do anything. Look at this article. A $2.5 million South Florida mansion has been taken over by a crafty squatter, and the police are powerless to order an eviction. The 7,500 square foot residence in Boca Raton, Florida is currently being inhabited by Brazilian national Andre Barbosa. The 23-year-old is using an antiquated, legal covenant called adverse possession that allows a vacant property's title to be acquired by anyone openly occupying and maintaining the site and paying real estate tax for 7 years. Now, in Florida, it looks like it's 7 years. I think in California it's less. It's probably 3 to 5 years. But again, these are really detailed technical knowledge that you don't need to know for the California real estate exam. But know that this is adverse possession. Think of this homeless guy getting into this beautiful home and try to take the title of it legally, and the police cannot put him out because they have to wait until see if his legal action is successful or not. So that's adverse possession. You will have these 3 terms in the California real estate exam. It doesn't matter where you're going to take your exam, you will have these 3, and they will try to confuse you. So make sure you know these 3 terms, make sure you know the differences, and make sure you have that mental image for each of them. For the eminent domain, create that mental image of a utility company. That's my mental image for the eminent domain, okay? Public work wants to be done. The government wants to take your property. Escheat, think of someone excuse me, who died alone with no kids, no family, and property is being taken over by the government. And for adverse possession, well, remember our article. Remember our beautiful home being invaded by a homeless, smart Brazilian guy who was trying to get the title of the property, and the neighbors are not happy. Look what they're saying. Nobody is happy. We all spend a lot of money to live on the street. A neighbor told ABC News, this guy is trying to pull something. So everybody is unhappy. This homeless guy got in, and now he's about to become the legal owner of this mansion. Adverse possession, escheat, eminent, really important. Thanks for watching the video. Thanks for sponsoring. I'm going to thank our sponsor, the California Real Estate License School.com. I'll catch you in the next video.